Hi, guys. Welcome back to My Steps to Sobriety, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stefan Neff. Today is another fantastic day for you to press that subscribe button down there and the like button, because I've got so many beautiful, beautiful humans coming onto my show, and each and every one of them makes this world a little bit better by showing their transparency, authenticity, they're beautiful, their selves, and we can learn so much from them. And today is no different. I've got Amanda Zeine with me. Amanda is a pediatrician. She is a flight surgeon. Maybe should I say has been a pediatrician, has been a flight surgeon, and is now transforming, not necessarily out of her own volition, but she is transforming into a new being. And we are getting ringside seats here and finding out more about this beautiful, beautiful woman. Amanda Zeine, welcome to my show.
Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Amanda, it is. We can start your story any which way, because it is amazing one way or the other. To start off with, you are a pediatrician and a flight surgeon, so that takes a lot of gusto to actually go through medical school and then go into the military. Tell us a bit about that. Who did you want to be when you were a little girl? Did you want to be a doctor, or
Yes.
how did they go?
Yes.
Excellent.
So I've always wanted to be a doctor my whole life. That's the only thing I ever wanted to be.
Cool.
And I never wanted to be in the military. I wanted nothing to do with it. I told all the recruiters, they come to the school when you're in high school, and no, it's not for me. But my mother talked me into applying for a scholarship when I went to an open house at a private school. And I thought, I'll never get it. So I applied and I got it. And I ended up going to the state school instead. And I had a 3-year scholarship. So I had a year to decide whether or not I wanted to do ROTC. And I loved it. I loved every single bit of it. The only people I even talk to anymore from college are the girls that were in my ROTC class that we bonded, because obviously we had to compete with the boys and be better. And so I still talk to one or two of those. Otherwise, I don't know anyone really from college.
Interesting. Did the military also fund your medical education?
It did. So I had the scholarship for undergrad, and then I had to apply for another scholarship for medical school. I actually commissioned as a second lieutenant in December of 2002, had an educational delay to go to medical school, had a scholarship for that, and then I recommissioned in 2007 as a physician in the medical corps, and then went to residency with the military.
Beautiful. I mean, it is, having studied medicine on my own and coming from poor backgrounds, I was about 66,000 Deutschmark in debt, and that was already reduced because I was amongst the best in medical school. So they about a third or so comes off your fees. But bottom line is, it is a huge chunk of money, and at least someone was paying that for you. So there's not the pressure of, oh my God, how will I ever recoup that money and pay it back? Okay.
No, there's the thought of, oh my God, I owe 8 years to the Army.
Well, touche. Because
I have loved my Army. I would not trade what I did for anything. I have met amazing people. I have seen amazing. I think one of the things with being in the military, and I've gone on what's called a MEDRET, which is a medical mission. When I was in residency, I had the opportunity. I lucked out that my schedule met up with when it was happening. And I went to Thailand for 16 days and
2004
to see the medical care that is not received over there. To see, it was amazing as a pediatrician to see some of the things that you only see in textbooks. But then even when I was in Afghanistan and Iraq and taking care of soldiers at that time, because I was in my flight surgeon role when I was deployed, as soon as people found out I was a pediatrician, up went my name on the board with my Roshan phone number. They'd be calling me out of meetings and I'd be like, sir, can I go to this meeting? Can I go? They got a kid over at the FST, and they'd be like, get out of here. And so I was supposed to be the expert, and I was 5 months out of residency and scared to death. I have a full bird colonel who's a general surgeon asking me questions, and I'm like, yes, sir. Of course I know the answer. It was pretty amazing, some of the things that you see, and so many things we take for granted, which we all do. I do every single day. So many things we take for granted that those people just don't even know exist.
Oh, yes, so right. We are so blessed. Over my career, I've been to West Africa. I've been doing transport medicine, so flight medicine here in New Zealand, and this is. I had to laugh when he was saying, yes, I know what's going on. Because I remember a trip flying to Fiji from here, from New Zealand, to get a encephalitis child or young woman. And over the phone, oh yeah, we've stabilized her. Everything is all right. Yeah, she's intubated, ready for you to pick up. And we came there, and it was Fiji. Fiji is some parts of Fiji are really third world, and this hospital was not different. And there was nothing, seriously nothing. The child was not prepared. There was nothing happening, and I had to start from scratch. And it was pucker factor, stomach the size of a marble, and 5 hours in a plane with an unstable child is, time is flying when you're having fun. You're not. That's the opposite. Okay.
No, I understand completely. My first Medevac mission. So basically a little history for folks that don't understand or know. As a pediatrician in the Army, you are a general surgeon. A general practice doc. And as a general practice doc, you can be a brigade surgeon, a flight surgeon, a battalion surgeon. Basically, all that means is that you are a doctor for the soldiers that are in that battalion or brigade. It does not mean that you are doing surgery in the back of a helicopter, as my mother was telling people. I was like, no. But anyway, so I deployed 5 months out of residency. It was not my choice. I drug my feet. I hated every minute of it. And it is probably the best thing that ever could have happened to me. It really let me see how the real Army worked. It gave me a one-up on other docs that are in the hospital that have only worked in the hospital. They haven't been out there. They haven't seen what the soldier is going through. So here you've got a pediatrician who understands what the parent is going through, and you've got a pediatrician who has no clue. And there's a big difference. And you understand more about just how everything works. I was completely clueless when I first went. My PA, thank God for him. He was prior active duty. He was a medic, and then he got out, became a chiropractor, civilian, then came back in and did the PA program in the Army. So he had all of these skills and the military know-how, and we were the perfect team We worked so well together. He put up with my craziness.
Just 1 second, just for people with all the acronyms and all the abbreviations.
Oh, sorry, yes.
PA is not a personal assistant; it's the physician's assistant, and that is often.
I wish.
Yeah, exactly. My pedicure. Come on.
I'm still waiting for the personal assistant.
Well, exactly. No, physician assistant is basically like an anesthetic technician for an anesthetist. You can work as a team with a very advanced trained person who is not a doctor, but who often can take on roles and has often got an insight that is just what you need in such times.
So he actually, in the military, in the States, we actually, our PAs sometimes don't have a doc with them and are the only medical. Some of our PAs I might rather go to than some of the docs. I've had amazing physicians, but I have also had amazing nurse practitioners, and my favorite primary care manager was a nurse practitioner.
Beautiful.
My own personal provider. So we have some pretty awesome people that I've practiced with across the board, and that's one of my biggest pet peeves, when docs don't give the mid-level providers the chance to show them how amazing they are.
No.
Because my PA, oh my gosh, he was a lifesaver. He really, well, and I was soft, and all the soldiers knew it because I wasn't used to being with soldiers. And so there was a lot of trying to get things by the new girl. And the first time I was actually hard on a soldier, after the soldier left, he started laughing and came into my office and said, "Wow, I wouldn't have even been that hard." I said, "If they're not going to do what I tell them to do, why should I help them?"
Oh, excellent.
She was supposed to go over and get physical therapy, and she hadn't, but wanted me to continue a profile. And I said, "If you're not trying to get better, why should I keep profiling you? We have to work together on this." And so, interestingly enough, first deployment was the Aussies. Second deployment, I did work with some Kiwis at the Roll 2, which is basically, for those who don't know, basically a hospital in the field. So we did have some New Zealanders and Aussies at that facility. I have a Kiwi patch.
Oh, hey, there you go. You've got a good taste. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I had 2 really good deployments. I did fly Medevac. I saw some danger, but I could not have asked for things to go better. When I did fly Medevac, I got most of the kids, which was funny. My PA would end up, when he was on Medevac, they would have the bad calls, and I would have more of the kids that honestly, sadly, were mostly child abuse. A lot of child abuse.
Afghanistan or Iraq, or both?
Afghanistan. I didn't fly Medevac in Iraq. I was the only practicing flight surgeon in Iraq the 9 months I was there. It was interesting. But in Afghanistan, I flew Medevac about the first 2/3 to 3/4. Then my PA went up to a northern forward operating base where they needed someone with a higher skill level than what the Special Forces 18 Delta medic had, because during the winter, it was harder to get flights in and out. And so they needed someone that could hold on to those more critical patients that had more experience. And so my PA volunteered to go up there. And so I lost him. So I stopped flying Medevac so that I could be with my soldiers, as well as the rest of the forward operating base I was on, because I was the only flight surgeon on that base. So I took care of the Air Force and all of the flight qualified folks. So.
Wow. And
So,
it's that huge diversity you have when you're in such a position. You have absolutely no clue what is coming around the corner. And it is, as an anesthetist, I'm privileged because I can focus. They call me when shit hits the fan. So as amongst doctors, the anesthetists are a little bit like the special forces. So whenever the other guys are in trouble, oh, we need the anesthetist, because we have got certain skills about airway and intensive care that make us good brothers in arms when shit hits the fan. So therefore, I can hone in on that. And I became very good in that. And I became addicted to it, really, the trauma aspect and being in ED. And it was good fun. And I became instructor and teacher for all these kind of things. That's easy because it's actually a very narrow field. You, however, they ask you, well, I've got this shoulder that hurts me. And I've got a bit of a trouble down there. 6 hours later, that little trouble is life-threatening. And you have to figure out 99%, oh, that's just a bad period, or that 1% that will die if you don't take action. Now, that, I don't know how you guys do it. Okay, so simply that. So kudos where it belongs.
Since my head injury, it's been a little bit difficult. The cognition, the intelligence is still there, but I have a really hard time with anxiety and stress, any kind of stressful situation. I have a hard time with finding words. So even practicing the neonatal resuscitation program to actually do like the code situation, practicing on the plastic baby, I couldn't remember the words for the procedure I wanted them to do. And so it's like, nope, done. No, I'm done.
Before we come to that, what I was trying to do is I was trying to paint the picture of Amanda Zeine out there, who sort of was growing from this, from a girl into a woman, into a badass, basically, because you have to be in that environment, like it or lump it. So you were growing, and you became, to a certain degree, some features of this alpha male environment you take on. And there's a certain amount of pride, because all that fear that you see with every single case, the uncertainty, the kind of, oh my God, the little voice that tells you, what are you doing here? Run. And you overcome all that, and you help people, and you look in the mirror and think, have I done that? And it's cool. It's really, really cool. And it's beautiful. So you do all that hard work with yourself. You steel yourself. You become that new person. And then life interferes. Then some shit hits the fan. Right. Your TBI, tell us about that. TBI, traumatic brain injury. We too are bad. Yes. We are the typical doctors. Oh yeah, let's talk about ABC to CDO and or to no. And no one says what the fuck. The TBI, traumatic brain injury.
I ended up. I had 2 deployments. One in 2011 and one in 2016. And in between, worked in the hospital. In 2019, that's when I went to Iraq, came back, and I held a chief position in a few different places. And I ended up becoming chief of pediatrics in 2018. And I was chief of pediatrics for about 6 months. And went ice skating with my family. And I'd never been on hockey skates before. And I took figure skating lessons when I was a kid, so I knew what I was doing. And I had no clue that hockey skates are not sharp. They're not sharp like figure skating skate. Like figure skating skates, you can slice something. Hockey skates are totally different. And I fell 3 times. The first time I didn't hit my head. The second time, I don't remember hitting my head, but my husband says I hit my head really, really hard. And the third time, I remember hitting my head. And I was sitting there and I hit my head so hard that my glasses flew off. And someone put them in my hand, and I'm sitting here looking at them like, what just happened? So I got the look, get off the ice. And he helps me up and he gets me off the ice. We're going to the ER. I'm like, no, we're not going to the ER. We don't need to go to the ER. And so I'm divorced and he's divorced. Our kids were all in town. He was getting ready to deploy. And we had paid for 2 hours of ice skating, and this was my first lap. We were not leaving. So I sat down on a bench and they finished their ice skating. I promised him I wouldn't get back on. Well, then about halfway through, I tried to get back on. And as soon as I put my foot down and with pressure, it still did this. I was like, okay, never mind. I won't get on. He's like, go sit down. So I went and I sat down. I was not right. The kids will tell you I was not right. Matter of fact, the next day they were joking around and laughing about it, about how goofy I was. I should have gone to the ER, but I didn't want one of our last days together to be spent in the ER. I wanted the kids to spend time with my husband, and he was getting ready to leave. I wanted him to be able to spend time with all of us. So we went home and he watched over me. And then the next day I had a headache. And then the next day I had a headache. And I just kept taking Excedrin migraine. And then comes the day he's supposed to deploy. And I said, I have a headache again. And he says, probably because you have post-concussive syndrome. And I said, nah, I don't have anything. I'm fine. I just have a headache. It's like, you've been living on Excedrin migraine. You have had headaches since you hit your head. You need to go see a doctor. I was like, nah, I'll be fine. So I tried to go back to work. And initially that was okay because I had a resident working with me who was doing all of the major work. I was just, following, sure everything looked good. She was awesome. And so I didn't really have to do a lot. I didn't have to get up and run to anything until the first time I had to get up and run to something, and I nearly passed out. I already had an appointment set for the doctor because my husband had been nagging me. By then he was in Iraq and literally nagging me from Iraq. And I was like, no, I'm done with this. I was like, fine, I'm going to the doctor. So I made an appointment. I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, you need a CT. And I said, I can't have a CT. I said, someone's covering the floor for me for like half an hour while I'm up here, and I got to go back to work. He's like, no. You need a CT. You call them and tell them that they're covering for you longer. And so I got her to cover for me for another like hour and a half. Got the CT. It was read as not normal, but what's the word?
Inconclusive.
Unremarkable.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, see, I'm fine. No big deal. He's like, you need brain rest. You should have had brain rest from the beginning. You need brain rest. I said, I work Sunday and it's now Friday. And he's like, you need 72 hours brain rest. I said, I'll give you 48. So I got 48 hours brain rest. I told him I have to work on Monday. I told another provider I would take her Monday clinic if she could work my night because my husband's deployment time changed. Because everything changes in the Army, and I wanted to be able to be there rather than be at work. So I went to work, and about 3/4 of the way through the day, my nurse came in with my last patient. Luckily, I did not have a full clinic schedule. It was a decreased schedule. She came in and said, I'll find somebody else to see your patient. You don't look good. And at that point, I called my boss and said, all my notes are done. Someone's seeing my last patient. My sister-in-law is picking me up. I don't feel right. And he said, well, basically, he gave me the biggest ass chewing of my life for being at work that day.
Good.
And, he's the most amazing man I've ever worked for. He has since retired, and my husband is now in his position as chief of primary care. And now he is a civilian working for my husband and my PCM.
What's a PCM?
He's my boss now. He's my doctor.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Primary care.
He's my primary care manager. So he's amazing. Amazing.
See, and there is a problem here already. There's listening to you. You are a woman who has emancipated herself, who has grown into an authority figure, you were not that little girl, you were a woman. Yeah, I'm a flight surgeon, now move aside. I tell you what to do. Now, that is the worst fucking patient I can imagine. Because, yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Okay, well, I know it all better. No. They
always say doctors are the worst patients, right?
And especially doctors who have taken on advanced roles or have been in places where they were not mollycoddled and protected in a big system called hospital. But the moment you leave the hospital and are in primary care, or where you're alone, or God forbid in a forward operating base, or on a helicopter alone, that is when you grow. That is when you truly become different.
Believe it or not, I was never, once. I got thrown on the chase bird once. For the most part, I was not alone on the helicopter. And you would be surprised at how well guarded and protected the doctor is. As soon as I stepped foot on a bird helicopter, the medic, who is the expert in the back of that helicopter, would look at me and go, "Don't you dare step foot off of this helicopter. You are valuable. Sit your ass down. I'm in charge." I mean, that is basically the way they regarded us. And you really had to gain the respect of those medics and let them know that you respected them and that was truly their place. But you were there to have their back if they needed you.
Absolutely.
And I never had a situation ever where I did not 100% agree with what my medics were doing and where I had to step in while I was on a bird.
Very beautiful to see. Yeah.
And then the one time I had to leave, that medic that day had told me, "Don't get off this bird." And then we land and he throws me an aid bag and points at the other helicopter. I was like, "What do you want me to do? You told me not to get off and now you want me to get off." But we had too many patients. So, so I grabbed the aid bag but I got lucky. I treated one service member from America, and that was an accident. It was not major. It was not war related. It was my PA got all those types of calls. I got my very, very, very first call was a baby that had swallowed a button battery. Now, you know, they don't have TVs in the middle of Afghanistan.
So
guaranteed that was from an IED. Guaranteed detonator.
Fuck.
I had already taken care of a kiddo in residency. So I had all the facts, and I knew that this kid, depending on how long it had been there, had very little chance of a normal life, especially in Afghanistan. So we fly up there, we get the kid, I'm freaking out. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I wasn't sure if it was in the esophagus, you know, did they swallow it? Did they inhale it? And it's in the trachea and blocking off the airway. And I'm freaking out. This is my first medevac flight. I didn't even get the brief. Usually prior to your 24-hour shift, you get the go, no go brief where they give you, you know, the weather and moonlight and all of the things, you know, all of the codes and passwords if you were to get captured, all that stuff. I didn't get any of that because literally as I'm walking to that brief, this call came in and I hear, get the doc. We need the doc. And I'm like, oh, crap. I'm like, this is my first flight ever. My stuff is on the other bird because they were getting ready to change. And so that bird was going to be the one that would be coming up first. So I had to run back, get my stuff, run back. And it's not easy to run in all of this stuff, especially when you're short like I am. I can't even step into a helicopter. I have to get in with, everybody joked around about my knees being bruised. Take that as you will, because I had to lift my leg up and get on my knee to pull myself up into the helicopter because I was too short to just step up, especially with all this gear on. And so I get in and I'm sitting there and I've got everything and I'm too nervous to ask what's going on because it was my first flight. And I didn't know all of these people all that well because we'd only been in country for maybe 3 weeks. And they were a National Guard unit that was working with us. So I hadn't known these guys very long at all. And I'm like, okay. So I'm listening and then I hear the button battery and I'm like, okay, I'm going over my protocols. I'm like, none of these are helpful. None of these are, you know what you need to do. You're good. You've got this. No big deal. Of course, it's the longest flight you can possibly have. It's the furthest place away from us. So I'm freaking out the whole time. The dad gets on holding the baby and the baby's pink and crying. And I'm like, whew.
Exactly.
The baby swallowed the button battery 5 days prior.
Oh.
Now, according to the National Button Battery Hotline, yes, there is one in the United States because that many kids swallow batteries. Greater than 8 to 10 hours means they're going to have devastating after effects. Well, this baby, it took us a while to get it out. The anesthetist and the cardiothoracic surgeon who brought a pair of alligator clips over that were like really long but teeny, and the other head doc that was at the forward surgical team, there was a cardiothoracic surgeon who hung out in our hospital. You never know what you're going to have. And so they finally it took a good 45 minutes to get that battery out. And I said, this kiddo is likely not going to make it. That's been there entirely too long. And they called me 2 days later when the baby was in organ failure. And so there was not much we could do. Obviously, we did everything we could. But I mean, that was the cases with most of the kids. Most of the kids we picked up were burns or falls. And it's like, it was sad. It was really sad. And I would have to take off my pediatrician hat and put on my flight surgeon hat to make decisions of, do we even go get the kid? Is it worth putting my team in danger? That's 5 individuals flying, sometimes 4 individuals flying. That, do I put all of those people in danger to go get this one hearts and minds mission patient that likely won't live anyway? And that was probably one of the hardest type of decisions I had to make while deployed. It's pretty amazing. But again, the things you see over there are it's heartbreaking to see the broken bones that now are so infected because they weren't set properly, that now the kiddo has to have surgery, and the kids that are dipped in a hot liquid and scalded, the kids that fall off the mountain and have head injuries. I diagnosed a kiddo with a heart defect who was 2 years old, and that would have been found within the first 4 months in the United States. So yeah, it was eye-opening. Very eye-opening.
That's very hard, isn't it? And if you look at many television series, and there are the supposed conflict of doctors acting like gods, no one realizes that there are times, especially when you're in such countries, where you essentially do have to do that. And that is not because of some ego trip, but because, as you quite rightly say, if you have got a cloud cover, then and you have to fly into the mountains, and you have got 4 people there, and you hear about a story where you think, great, there's no chance. What do you do? What do you do? There may be that tiny, tiny chance. Or there might be the chance that you are splattered over a mountainside and never to be returned in one piece to the United States.
Well, and then you have to think about the fact that what's the enemy doing in that area?
Correct.
Is there a possibility that we could have, certain areas we had to have gunships go with us? Mm-hmm. So it was interesting. It was very interesting.
Were these decisions haunting you later?
No, actually, no. I believe it or not, honestly, I believe God only gives you what you can handle. And I know that if I would have gone on a couple of the flights that my PA went on, I would not have been able to handle it after the fact. In the fact, like in when I had to be there and do what I had to do, I would have been okay, but I would have been broken, incredibly broken afterwards. I would not have done well. So I thank God that he got those calls. And what's funny is, or I guess ironic, he says the same thing about all the calls I went on with the kids. He says, I don't know how you did it. I could not have handled that.
Oh yeah.
And so we were the perfect pair. We worked really great together. And I am so thankful he was with me, because he really taught me a lot. And my second deployment, I was by myself. I didn't have a PA. I was it. I had 2 medics that worked with me. I had 3 initially and then 1 left. And so it was me. And then I had other docs that I could call. But in my vicinity, it was just me. So I learned a lot from him, and he made my second better.
Sorry. How do you deal? What techniques did you use to learn with waves of anxiety at that time, when your brain was working well, when you were happy with yourself? How did you deal with we have got a 15-year-old drive-by shooting who's highly pregnant, intoxicated, and you get this kind of list of things, and you think, what? How do you deal with it?
So my big thing, I did a lot of mother baby. So a lot of mine was, we have a, 32 weeker who just rolled in, and we're not sure how far along mom is. We may be delivering this baby in the next 30 minutes at a small hospital where I don't have the ancillary services. Oh, by the way, it's in the middle of the night. It's always in the middle of the night. It's never when we have all staff. So of course my respiratory therapist isn't there, and I don't have anybody who can do, you know what I mean? And
so how do you deal with that pressure? What did you?
I didn't think about it. I didn't think about it. So if I got called to something, it was just gotta go. It was just immediate, and I just did it. And now I don't even know that the anxiety is creeping up. I don't even know it's there until I can't function. I start feeling like I'm off balance or dizzy almost. I start losing words. When we were working on the baby, it was, the baby needed a needle decompression. It had a collapsed lung. And I kept telling my team, we need the thing. We need the thing, the thing, the thing. We need the thing to do the thing. We got to do the thing. And I'm pointing at the intercostal space where we need to stick the needle. And in the heat of the moment, I cannot for the life of me remember the word needle decompression. And none of the people on the team, of course, because it's whoever is there taking the course, they're not people I normally work with. And I used to be I might be biased, but I think I was a pretty darn good mother-baby doc. I worked days for quite a while when we lost one of our neonatal nurse practitioners to cancer. She passed on Christmas morning. I was actually working one of her shifts because I was filling in until we could. And I ended up working 8 months as in her place because I was the easiest person to kind of move into that place. And I loved it. I love the babies. The babies are my favorite. But I can't do it now. And I flat out told the hospital, I can't do this. I don't even want to be put in the position of being the person up there because I cannot be the person who has to save the baby's life. And they were like, yeah, no, we're not putting you up there anyway. They're like, not until you can prove to us, you know. So I haven't even renewed my neonatal resuscitation because I probably won't ever do it again.